morning, evening, or afternoon, and welcome to a business edition of Across the Pitch. That's right, we're getting down to business today, and we have morning, evening, and afternoon all represented. My name is Phil Kennedy. It's still in the AM here in Phoenix, Arizona. In the afternoon, we have Tony Robinson from Ontario, Canada. And in the evening, we have Darren Woodhead over in Accrington. And if you've been following the announcements, there was a big announcement this morning that will certainly impact the way that football business is done, at least at the beginning of next season. So I think that's probably a good way for us to start, since that article did come out today.
Yeah, nice to speak to you both this evening. Definitely evening in Accrington on a rainy evening in Accrington. Little did we know when we started planning this episode that there would be an announcement that's come out, albeit a little bit vague, I suppose. It's as much detail as what they can possibly do at this stage, I would have thought. Just bouncing some ideas around, waiting for the green light to go, I would have thought.
Yeah, when you read the announcement, as you say, it's very sort of... it's open, and the one thing is it's a positive step in that they're obviously looking at some type of format for starting, although we don't know exactly any dates. And I mean, it's relating. It shows that they're looking at getting fans in October. Does that mean the league starts then, or does it start late September, or without fans and then bring fans in? I think there's a lot of things there really still to be determined.
Yeah, I think definitely you need to know, Tony, because it's just right around the time of your normal trip over to the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just it's really sort of up in the air because, I mean, if there's fans coming into the stadium, it's a good thing. But for me, it's whether I can actually get into the country, and so there's a lot of things to fall in place, and hopefully it will work out because, I look forward to coming over and seeing some live football at the Wham Stadium. And if I am lucky to do that, it's certainly going to be different, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that where we're at right now is certainly, I think we're all in agreement that we need to find a way to be able to get things where fans are in the stands, even if it is in a limited capacity, because we've talked about so many times. I mean, when you're at a division where you're not having the big TV contracts, where you're kind of as cliche as it is, relying on those butts in the seats to pay the bills. I think that, certainly maybe if we have to start late September, play a handful of games with no fans, that maybe that would be possible. But at some point, we need to find a way to get the butts in the seats. Otherwise, it's just not something that's going to be viable for more than a very short term.
And when I look at that, read the announcement, I'm assuming, although it doesn't come out and specify, that we're looking at no away fans coming to matches, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think it's based on a third capacity, somewhere around that. So I think 1,500-ish supporters, and it's been muted that we have 1,100 season ticket holders. I'm just wondering about what the kind of makeup of that crowd will be if we actually get like you said, it's good news that the club's planning, and we might get a go ahead. I wonder, because I also know that there's quite a elderly fan base of certain sections of the crowd. Are they going to want to take up season tickets this year? Are they comfortable in going? Are we going to be wearing masks? It's there's a lot of questions, isn't there?
The number 1,500 that you're mentioning there, to me, I feel like if Accrington could get that full 1,500 through the gate week in and week out, that would be enough to pay the bills. But I think that's what you're saying, Darren. Is the question is they'll be allowed 1,500, but are 1,500 going to show up? Because if only 500 are showing up, then that's not going to get the bills paid.
Yeah, I mean, it's who knows? It's difficult to say, isn't it? And can the rest of the balance? Can we re-look at the iFollow package? Can that be ripped up and started again? Can people pay extra to go to watch the game, and who would normally want to watch the game live? Can they watch it from the home in Accrington? So it's can we look at completely new ways that we haven't even thought of?
There is definitely, you have to look at revenue streams, don't you? Because obviously there's a drop off in revenue from the fans, and I agree, Darren. I think there's going to be a certain section of that season ticket holders and walk-ups that are not going to want to attend just for health and safety reasons. So it looks like if they're going to use all four sides to split up this 1,600. And I think, I'm not sure the exact number, but I remember back in 2006 when they came back into the Football League, and I was speaking to somebody at the club, and basically what they looked at was around 1,600 fans, to break even. And that was back in 2006. So, you're going to need around that number or more, because you couldn't operate the club if you're just going to average 1,000, 1,100 fans there. You're losing money. Plus, as I said, if they do play a couple of matches or whatever without fans, there's that added expense as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of good points that you guys both made, but following up on what you said, Tony, those were kind of the numbers that I was doing in my head, because the Andy Holt, I believe that he said that the gate revenue for an average year for Accrington is about £750,000, and I feel like they average maybe about 2,000 a game is kind of the average. And obviously some games get more, maybe it gets a little bit closer to 2,500 sometimes, or even 3,000 if you have a Sunderland or an Ipswich come in. But so I'm starting to look at the numbers there, and I'm saying, okay, so if 2,000 per game, 2,000 to 2,500 is going to get in £750,000, 1,500 fans, you're looking at maybe £600,000 is what you're going to get in off of that. So I mean, at that point, you're looking at, okay, well, that's £100,000, £150,000 loss there. Maybe you cut a few corners, you can make up for that. If you get to the point where you're only getting in, say, 700 fans, then all of a sudden, that 750,000 becomes 250,000, and then cutting £500,000 from the budget is a lot different than cutting £100,000 from the budget.
Yeah, and another thing is that we're talking about the budget as it's been. Our clubs, maybe Accrington, or maybe all clubs, are going to start looking at, does that budget include now, instead of going into season with 25 players, 25 players, is that going to be 12 to 15 professionals and 5 youth team players? There's a lot to evaluate, isn't there?
I know that they're talking in the higher leagues of having more substitutes on the bench. Do we know if that's going to be applicable to League 1 and 2?
I would say that in the USL Championship, which and also USL League 1, which if you guys haven't heard the episode that we did with Ira last week, Ira Jersey, that actually may be a good idea to listen to that one first, because we kind of started our business discussion there. This is a bit of a follow-up, and at least here in the States, in what are the second, third, and fourth division, they have gone with the 5 substitutes rule. I mean, it seems to be kind of the thing that's happening. I kind of have a feeling that 5 substitutes is just what we're going to see in football from now on.
But that would mean...
For what reason? What is the reason?
That's a good question.
5 substitutes? Because I thought the substitute I may be wrong, were because we were coming back having to play multiple games within, in a week, squad rotation. But if we can start the season in relatively normal situation, albeit delayed, I don't see the need for all those substitutes personally.
No, and I think that's it gives an advantage to bigger clubs because there may be some of their players would normally go out on loan, and all of a sudden, because they can put more people on the bench, they'll say, okay, we're going to keep player XY. And we're not going to let him go out on loan. So I think that could affect some of the the smaller teams on who they sign and who they get in on loans.
I've heard arguments on both sides on this, and it's one of those things where I've kind of been torn on because there's good points on both sides. I mean, Tony, you just made certainly the points against it. I've heard a number of points for it, just, maybe be able to give younger players a little bit more time, get them in at the end of the game, maybe have a little bit more flexibility if somebody gets hurt early on, things like that. I would just say that the rhetoric that I've seen seems to be trending towards that the 5 subs are going to stay. I'm not saying I agree with it one way or another. I'm just saying that's where it seems to be trending towards.
Well, as I say, like Darren said, it was brought in because of the frequency of games and the potential of injuries, and maybe that not everybody was in shape. But there's if we have a start season for late September, October, there is that time for people to get in shape and be ready, and the frequency of matches, probably 2 a week, but that's basically, League One, they're used to playing twice a week. So I think it's something that really they're implementing. That's been implemented too soon, as far as I'm concerned, because it has a trickle-down effect on other teams.
I'm not saying that I support it or don't support it. I'm just saying that I'll bet you guys a pint that 5 subs is going to be the way it is going forward.
No, you're probably right, because they could have to cram some games in. So talking around salaries then, salary caps, that's been muted as well, hasn't it, in the press, etc., announcements in the last few weeks. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I'm a huge advocate of salary caps because I've seen how they work in American sports, and that's kind of, to me, the one thing that I thought has really been broken about the entire football pyramid. I mean, financial fair play has essentially been a joke because nobody really understands it, and then you have you have Man City, or you have these new investors that are coming in, or even if you look at someone like Stan Kroenke. I mean, these people just have so much money that they can invest, and that money is not trickling down to the lower parts of the pyramid, and there needs to, at some point, there needs to be a cap put on it. And to me, ultimately, what I've seen is the biggest obstacle is this is something that's going to have to start at the top and work down, I would think. And certainly the idea of getting the Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, all to agree that they're going to have the same salary cap kind of seemed like a pipe dream of sorts to me. But now it seems like maybe it's kind of starting at the bottom and might work up where, like you said, the lower leagues are talking about putting in a salary cap.
Well, I think in the lower leagues, let's say League One and League Two, I think a salary cap is a great leveler of the playing field for small budget teams, because if they put a salary cap in, and I've seen two numbers mentioned, £2.3 million or 2.5, which is right in the neighborhood of what Stanley's budget would be. So I think a lot of the bigger teams are going to struggle with that, because they're going to have to release some players. There's going to be a lot of good players that are available that are going to have to take pay cuts if they want to play, which should mean that you may have a smaller squad for Stanley, but you might have depth in quality because of the fact that these players are available. The one thing that does concern me is that there could be exceptions on the salary cap for teams that are relegated, like teams coming down from the championship might have a bigger salary cap, to cover for their wages, which it's like what happens with the Premier League when they get parachute payments when the team gets relegated. I think there may be something that comes into play in League One, which might protect some of the bigger clubs. But I think overall, I think it would make Accrington, a far more competitive team, with the salary cap.
Yeah, I agree that obviously teams the size of ours at Accrington we're going to benefit usually and level playing field, etc. I'm just wondering if a lot of players though who we're expecting to fit under this salary cap at whatever everyone's in League One on, say £2,000 a week or whatever it is, are these players at that level then going to start going overseas? Because how many leagues are there now in the world? I mean, they can go to Australia, they can go to Japan. I mean, it's like Phil, you've interviewed Chris Cortez. I mean, he's traveled the world playing in leagues, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I was just going to bring up Chris Cortez because I mean, here's a perfect example. I mean, so here's a guy. He played for Phoenix Rising 2 years ago. Scored 17 goals for Phoenix Rising. We've kind of discussed until we were blue in the face that we think Accrington Stanley and Phoenix Rising would be a pretty good matchup if they played each other. So by the transitive property, I would certainly think that Chris Cortez would be good enough to play for Accrington Stanley. And then you look at Denmark, and he was just playing in the third division in Denmark, and then was able to win a championship and get promoted with that club. He's moving on, but so what you're looking at, so you look at Denmark, you don't think of Denmark as a soccer hotbed, if you will, and then if the third division in Denmark is good enough to bring in Chris Cortez, that they're certainly good enough to bring in guys from Accrington Stanley too.
Yeah, I think obviously.
Did you guys follow that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying, Phil, is and Darren, you pointed out to start this is players are going to follow the money, and if there's an opportunity to play in the USL in the States or possibly MLS or they're going to look at those opportunities, but I think it's going to make it as I say, a level playing field. I think the opportunity to get some good quality players in for Stanley is as good as it's going to get based on if a salary cap is implemented. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
Well, I think that's really important what you just mentioned, because that kind of goes back to what Ira said. Remember when Ira was saying that he thinks USL League One teams would have a hard time competing in English League Two because English League Two teams have a larger budget? So what you were saying about, maybe players coming over it and playing in the USL, and I think that is a concern, is that if you put in that salary cap, then you're restricting those English League Two teams from being able to have that bigger budget. And then maybe you have some of those players, like you said, coming over and playing in a USL that doesn't have a salary cap, or a Denmark that doesn't have a salary cap, or wherever it might be. I think that's why I kind of said it. It kind of goes back to what I said, where doesn't this have to start at the top, where the big four leagues have to kind of come into an agreement, and then it has to trickle down from there?
See, I don't think a salary cap is going to impact Accrington as much as it would other teams. I think it's going to bring other teams down to the budget level what Stanley normally operates, and that's my point. Is that other teams would struggle with a salary cap a heck of a lot more than Stanley.
Well, within England, but what I'm concerned about is this going to be a mass exodus of players from England to countries that don't have a salary cap in their lower division?
I don't think so. That's my opinion. I don't think so.
I think a certain level of player. I think if you take, say, Jordan Clark, for instance, so he's obviously he's going to be moving on to pastures now, but he's what I class the top League One player and every chance of playing in the Championship. So if he could earn, say, for theoretical values, £2,000 a week at Accrington, and then he gets a big move to a big club, even still within League One, say Sunderland, and he can earn £10,000, but that's taken away from him.
Yeah.
Now he's going to chase that 10,000 in another league in the world. He's definitely going to do that, isn't he?
Or a Caden Jackson, that would be the perfect example. Is Ipswich isn't going to be able to pay Stanley, $2 million just to get Caden Jackson.
And I think it does come into play is your status. If you're a single young professional, it's going to be a lot easier than to up and go to another country for a little bit more money. Whereas a veteran, when I say a veteran, someone in that 29, 30, 31 range with children in school are more likely to probably take little bit less, not to so as to not move the family around.
Yeah,
in general, I think it's a good thing.
What you're saying, that was actually something that was mentioned by Chris Cortez, not on our last interview, but in a previous interview, as he said he specifically has not settled down with a family because he wants to be able to travel to wherever his career takes him.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think, Darren, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah. So I know snorted, Phil, when you came on the podcast tonight, for what one reason or another, you didn't say your normal line of an extra special episode, which is quite ironic because this is going to be an extra special episode that you didn't know.
So I only say extra special episode if we have a guest.
Well, guess what?
Oh, well.
Guess what?
Guess what? You're going to be the guest tonight, Phil. We've been, I gave you a name this week, and it was a Captain Blythe. It's a famous story in England. And we know you've been the captain of the good ship across the pitch for 150-ish episodes, plus specials for 200. So we thought we'd have a bit of a mutiny tonight, myself and Tony, and turn the tables on you, and you're going to be answering a few questions.
Whoa, you got questions for me? I don't know if anybody that.
Yeah, we have. We've got, it's a rapid fire meets listener questions meets questions from your colleagues on across the pitch. So I've been a busy bee. Discuss this with Tony, and so you're gonna have to strap yourself in for some choppy waters here Phil.
This is the extra special guest, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, the one and only Phil Kennedy.
The least special guest.
We've gone through, watching 200 episodes, I would have thought. So obviously we've caught you off guard a little bit tonight, but I've been speaking to quite a few people, and they've all got questions for you, Phil. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Right. And they're very eclectic mix. So we've got all sorts of things.
Oh boy.
Sport, non-sport, food. Right. So first question, Johnny Hibbard, he's asking you, from the major sports, which we know you're a aficionado on everything, who would you say from the major US sports would you think would make a good soccer player?
Oh, actually, this is one that I have thought about for many, many times. And it's not really a major U.S. sport. It's a major U.S. athlete. And it's a guy that I actually do not enjoy watching in the sport that he does. But Floyd Mayweather. I mean, just that guy's footwork and speed and ability. And I just can't imagine he'd be the kind of guy that would be a good actor at taking a dive. And I always said that if Floyd Mayweather had played football instead of becoming a boxer, the U.S. might have won a World Cup by now.
Well, good answer. You hit the ground running.
He'd take too many yellow cards for talking back to the referee with Mayweather. Anyway.
Yeah, and he certainly wouldn't like a salary cap, would he?
No.
Right, next question, Phil, from a certain gentleman called Ross Davenport. Okay,
Ross.
So he's asking you if you think MLS is a Ponzi scheme. Now, I had to Google this, what it meant.
Ponzi didn't make it across the pond.
I would say no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. I think everybody kind of looks at the crazy speed of expansion of the league, but it's not something that's unprecedented. Because in the United States, if you look at Tony, will be very familiar with this. The National Hockey League is the closest example. There was only 6 teams up until the 1970s, and then from about 72 that the Flyers came in?
67.
67. Okay, so from 67 to I think like 95 is considered the expansion era, and they've expanded more beyond that. But so that was over about a 25-year period. They went from 6 teams to 28 teams.
Yeah, there'll be 32 next year.
Yeah, and it's what happens over here because there's so many large cities that are so spread out, especially once you include Canada, that there's markets to support them, and it's just the way that sports work on this continent. And if you look at the NBA, the way that the NBA expanded, it was very similar to that. And I'm sure Tony would be kind of familiar with these as well.
Right. So we're going for no. Right. Right. Next question. We're going for no. Right. Next question. Co-founder of Across the Pitch, Aaron Ayres. So he's asked. He's got a couple of questions lined up here to see if you've been listening to the answers of when you've had guests on, Phil. So he's asking Chris Cortez, which club did he play professionally for first?
Oh boy, it was in the Mexican League, but I don't remember the name of the club.
Right, Chivas USA, is that right?
Yeah, I think they were there at the MLS, weren't they?
Yeah, so Chivas USA, yeah, they were the Los Angeles club that folded.
Yeah, they took the name from a Mexican team. So, as the impartial judge, I'm going to give Phil a half a point on that one.
Yeah, you got half a point. So,
I remember. So I remember in the last interview he was talking about that he did play in Mexico, and I know he played for Orange County before he played for Phoenix. I guess so. So that makes sense because I guess Chivas USA was probably his youth team because he grew up in Southern California. So that probably makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Aaron's asked another question. How many Callums have been guests on the show?
Just 2.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
I think Callum Williams and Callum Johnson, but Callum Williams has been on 4 times and Callum Johnson twice. So we've had 6 Callum interviews. And we
6
definitely
6 Callum interviews.
Yeah. We need to get another Callum on soon.
Yeah,
I remember listening to that sketch. It counted. It was confusing when you guys did it. Anyway.
Next question. Our friend in Ghana, Subaru.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's another one who's come to the party with us. He's asking for you the craziest moment while you've been following football, Phil.
Craziest moment while I've been following football. Okay, so would you guys say the craziest moment that happened on the pitch?
Whatever you want.
Yep, sure answer.
You've got a crazy one at the moment where you've got a cardboard cutout at the ground.
And to me, the craziest moment that ever happened watching football, it will always be from when I very first started watching football, because there's nothing that I think could possibly be wilder than this. It is the Zidane headbutt of Matarazza in the World Cup final, because the 2006 World Cup was when I started watching football, and Zidane was kind of the guy where I don't know, I put on a France game, and you know what, I had seen, you know, the David Beckhams and, you know, guys that everybody said were that great, but I put on a France game and I was like, who is this Zidane guy? And I just could not stop. And that kind of, he's the guy that really just made me say, wow, I want to watch more of this sport. And then to be watching the final match of that tournament and knowing that he's going to be retiring at the end of that game, final game of the World Cup, going down to extra time, and then he headbutts the guy and gets sent off. I mean, yeah, there's nothing
incredible.
That.
And I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to go with a dollar beer night at Phoenix Rising, so I was way off on that one.
Those get pretty wild too, but I don't know. I've never seen any headbutts.
Maybe. Yeah, I'd like to experience one of those maybe someday. Right, next question up.
I've got
from Ira Jersey. From Ira Jersey.
Okay.
Who was on the recent podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's asking for your favourite memory from a match in the past 2 seasons.
Favorite memory from a match in the past 2 seasons. Wow. I mean, there's a few that stand out, and I've talked about a few of these before. You know, certainly the Sean McConville hat trick against Plymouth, which is the game that made sure Accrington was staying up. That was a big one. The Adam John Panenka penalty kick, just because I was standing 20 feet away and it was so unexpected. Yeah. I think that those two, if I had to pick one Accrington and one Phoenix moment, those are the first two that come to mind. So I guess that's going to be
that's pretty good.
Yeah, the good ones. Yep. The last one from your friends and colleagues before we move on to Tony and myself's questions. We've got one from Peter Leatham, obviously a great friend of everybody's and the show. Yeah. He's just got a couple of little fun ones. Mustard or ketchup on your hot dog?
Ketchup.
Ketchup, right. And he wants to know.
I thought you were going to go for both, Phil.
I'm not a mustard fan at all. I don't like it on anything. I mean, maybe on a hamburger if I had to. I mean, I don't really go much ketchup either. I'm more of a cheese and jalapenos on my hot dog guy.
Yep. Okay. And his second one was, if you're going to sit down and read, would it be a book or an ebook?
I probably would have to say a physical book, because I've tried the ebooks and it's just, for me, something that's long like a book is kind of hard to read on a screen. So yeah, I mean, the last books that I've purchased have all been physical books.
Okay. Right. So Tony, moving on to some questions that you've pulled together.
Okay. This is a sports question for you, Phil. If you've got all these teams playing at one time, if you've got the Suns, Phoenix Suns, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Arizona Coyotes, Arizona Cardinals, Phoenix Rising, and you could go to one match out of all those if they were playing at the same time, which one would it be?
First of all, I'm not an Arizona Cardinals fan, so we could cross that one off unless the Arizona Cardinals happen to be playing the Dallas Cowboys, because that's the NFL team that I root for. So if the Dallas Cowboys were in town, which happens like once every 6 years, I might actually have to pick that one just because it happens once every 6 years.
That's not part of the question, Phil.
so scratch off the Cardinals because I don't even support them. So is this just a regular season game for everybody, or is
yes, yeah. Just everybody's playing at the same time on a Saturday afternoon. Which one would you go watch?
Probably Phoenix Rising.
Okay, that's what I thought you would go with anyway.
I mean, it's hard to say because, like, I'll tell you, there was a situation coming up where both games ended up getting postponed because of coronavirus. But so it was the Phoenix Rising and Arizona Coyotes were both going to be playing. I think it was March 28th, home matches at the same time. And I already had tickets to both of those matches. What I was waiting on for that was it was the second to the last game of the season for the Coyotes. So if they were still in playoff contention and needed to win that game in order to make the playoffs, I was going to go to the Coyotes. If they were already eliminated or had clinched the playoffs by then, I was going to go to Phoenix Rising. So it gets very complicated.
It does, and I should have put conditions in that question when I asked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job you didn't include NASCAR as well.
Oh, well, I did think of that, but I thought, no, I better pull back on that one.
Well, actually, I
wanted to put the brakes on the NASCAR one.
Well, I'm glad Darren mentioned that because honestly, if NASCAR was in town, I would probably go to that over anything because that's my favorite thing to attend live. Just because with a football match or a basketball game, you can pretty much see everything that happens on the game on TV. Where with NASCAR, there's 40 different drivers on the track. So if you want to actually watch your favorite driver the whole time, the only way to do that is to go there and actually watch your favorite driver. Otherwise, it's, the TV decides what driver they want to show.
I just, the reason I didn't put it in because I have problems with watching guys drive 200 miles an hour going around in a circle, making left turns all day long, waiting for a crash. Anyway,
I will tell you, Tony, that the bringing up left turns is pretty much the equivalent to telling somebody it's not soccer, it's football.
Oh, let's not go there.
Oh, no. Listen, Phil, this is
one thing. NASCAR competes on more different kinds of tracks than any other racing discipline. They have 4 different road courses this year. They compete on 2-mile tracks, 2.5-mile tracks, 1-mile tracks, half-mile tracks. They have a triangle track. It's not just left turn.
We're going to have to bring this show back, commandeer the show back, Darren, because
yeah, I think though, yeah, definitely, Tony.
Okay, next question for you, Phil. When you're having your pizza with pepperoni and jalapeno peppers on, what beer are you going to have with it?
Guinness.
I didn't expect that one. Okay,
Guinness is the best beer in the whole world for any occasion.
Very good man. And this is a travel question. Outside of your own home state of Arizona, which is your favorite state and why?
I would say Nevada because Las Vegas is there.
I can't argue with that.
I mean, it's the closest place I can go to place a legal sports bet. So
you can always ring me up, Phil. I'll put one on for you. Right. So I've just got a few questions here, Phil. There's only 1 or 2 fun ones.
Okay.
Yep. So I want to know your favorite sitcom. Now, we've had many conversations about your comedies and which is your favorite over the years. So what's your favorite comedy?
Oh, man, that's
just one.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, it's probably got to be Seinfeld.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I had a feeling you'd go that way. For the next question, I'm not too sure which one you're going to pick, but what's your favorite Whitney Houston track?
When it's over.
Yeah.
The only song that I could even name would be the "I Will Always Love You" from The Bodyguard. I mean that's the only Whitney Houston song I could even name.
I was being mischievous there because I know you've no time for her at all. So right. So last fun question from me. Just regards the cardboard version you've got of yourself at the Phoenix Rising games. And we're led to believe that this cardboard cutout has got a higher profile in the media than yourself. Is that true?
It seems to lately. I mean, I don't know. I must have gotten prime position. So I thank you to the Phoenix Rising's fantastic crew that put my cardboard cutout front and center. And yeah, I'm just happy to be able to support the team in a non-three-dimensional likeness.
No, it's good that it's these efforts have been made by people to keep clubs going, and it's a great gesture. Right, so that's the end of the questions, Phil. So thanks for being a good sport. I know we sprung that on you. We thought it'd be a bit of fun.
Oh, that
we just started chatting.
Thank everybody that sit those in.
Yeah.
I just had one more question, if I could, Darren.
Yeah.
Phil, when you started across the pitch, did you anticipate where this would end up on your journey of getting this off the ground?
I don't really know what I expected. I think that I would have to say that almost everything has been kind of unexpected. I mean, certainly the number of interviews that we've done, and I guess when you go into a project like this, it's hard to have expectations because you just don't really know. But I guess what I would say is that the thing that I told Aaron, and this is something that I'm kind of proud of, is at the very beginning, I said, you know what, I really want to make a podcast that's about all football, but I mostly want to make a show that's about Accrington Stanley and Phoenix Rising mostly. And I think that we've somehow managed to accomplish that balance of making ourselves part of the Accrington Stanley and Phoenix Rising communities while also talking about everything from Ghana to Belarus to interviewing Chris Cortez all around the world. I mean, I would say that those are probably the most unexpected things. If you had told me when we started that we would do something like combine our efforts with Subaru to get the Accrington Supporters Club started in Ghana, that never would have been something that I would have thought in a million years. Or Tony and you, when you and I talked to the guys in France, or Darren, having David Lloyd on the show. I mean, those are the things I just said, never in a million years.
No, it's been an unbelievable journey, really, and long may it continue. We've got a good community, football community on across the pitch now, across different continents, and I would just mention from all these people who sent in a question, which was only yesterday. It hasn't been planned for days on end. Just shows how keen all these guys are in being involved with this project.
Every person you mentioned has made some hugely special contribution to the show, and every person that you mentioned that had sent in a question.
And I think I appreciate the reception that we've got and the feedback from members of the club at Stanley, and the positive comments that you get that we're helping to spread the brand. And I think that for me is a rewarding part of this journey.
I think you hit
good.
the nail on the head with that, Tony. That reminds me of something that I said to Darren one time. I said, Darren, when we started this, if you had told me that someday we would get 100,000 streams on an episode, I would have said, well, that's what we were trying to do. That was the goal. And, obviously we haven't had anywhere near 100,000 streams on an episode, but, that was something where that was on the map where, eventually you want to get as many streams as you can. But when we started the show, if you had come to me and said, oh, yeah, John Coleman's going to listen to the show regularly, I'd have said never in a million years.
Oh, so thanks for that, Phil. It's been good fun.
Thank you.
We started off on a serious note, but with the second half of the episode has been all fun. Let's just hope we get back to some football pretty soon, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's been the most difficult thing is now, so the last Accrington Stanley match was on March 6th. Today we're at July 22nd, and we're talking hopefully 60 more days. I mean, that's going to be the longest. I think it already has been the longest period without a Stanley game since 1970.
Yeah, agreed. We need to get back as soon as possible.
Yeah, and
so
fingers
on
crossed.
That note, on that note, you know how the show ends, don't you, Phil? Where you always ask everybody else what they're going to say next. So give us one of your catchphrases.
On Stanley on.
On Stanley on.